Continue on from the previous lesson or open the file Hat03.max. Now that we have our panels positioned and our seams created, we can continue on and add a cloth modifier. So click on cloth in the modifier list, and there are a few things that we need to set up. Normally when you get a cloth modifier, you'll go and to Object Properties and set up what is going to be cloth and how that cloth will react, and what is going to be a collision object and how that collision object will react. So I'll click on Object Properties, and this brings up the Object Properties dialog. You see already in here is the hat because we have the cloth modifier on it. You can just click the hat in the list and choose cloth, and that tells the cloth module that this object is going to be cloth and it needs to have cloth-like properties. A lot of times just for doing tests these default properties are fine, but there's also a list of presets that you can use. For this hat we'll just choose burlap because it's going to be a very stiff material. We also want to add the collision object, which is going to be our character. So click on Add Objects, and you can pick the gnome. With the gnome selected, just set it to be a collision object. Now we can set the depth and the offset to something a little bit lower, like 0.2. This is basically how close the cloth can get to our collision object, and if it goes inside of the object, how much it will try and push itself out. So you can click on OK, and we're pretty well set up for our cloth and our collision objects. Now there are a couple different things that we'll be doing when we simulate this for our character. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use this button here, Simulate Local, to simulate the hat dropping onto the character's head, as well as the seams pulling together. This is kind of a two-step process. First you want to use Simulate Local with Use Sewing Springs checked. That will use these seams and sewing springs to pull the hat together at its seams. Once it's most of the way pulled together, you can uncheck this and simulate local again, and that'll kind of snap all the seams together and drape it onto the character's head. Once it's placed onto the character's head, we'll set up some groups in order to keep it there. That way when the character's head moves around, the hat will be attached. We'll take a look at simulating in our next lesson.